Hello and welcome to another episode of Chuchu is a Ranker, and on this episode we are going to be discussing the discography of the English singer-songwriter Lawrence in all his many guises. Of course, Lawrence's most well-known contribution to the lexicon of pop was his first band Felt. The underground indie jangle outfit released 10 albums during the 1980s, and although they never broke through into the mainstream, they still left an indelible cult footprint, with future bands such as Belle and Sebastian, The Charlatans and Manic Street Preachers citing Felt as an influence. At the end of the 80s, tired of the lack of success and the infighting with his band members, Lawrence disbanded Felt and started a new band called Denim. This new act arrived alongside the trend of Britpop, and the timing seemed right for Lawrence to make a splash with his new, more pop-orientated stylings. Except that splash never arrived, and Denim died an unappreciated death after just 2 albums. In the wake of Denim's failure, Lawrence went fully solo in all but name, putting out quirky novelty pop records under the banner of Kart Mozart, before finally changing that moniker to Mozart Estate in recent times, all the while still suffering from a perpetual lack of success. And as for my own fandom, well, there is none. Coming into this, I had only heard the most recent Mozart Estate LP, so Lawrence's discography is completely brand spanking new for me. So, without further ado, let's be complete rankers and rank up a storm. These are the studio albums by Lawrence, aka Felt, Denim, Kart Mozart and Mozart Estate, ranked from worst to best. So, coming in last place, we have Instant Wigwam and Igloo Mixture from 1999, which was the first album under the banner of Kart Mozart and Lawrence's 13th LP overall. And the transition from Denim to Kart Mozart was not a smooth one, as this definitely is not Lawrence at his best. The album feels like a collection of rough ideas, or demo sketches designed to be fleshed out at a later date. But they weren't fleshed out and were just released in an unfinished form. As such, this record has a very fragmented and unsatisfying tang to it. Even the best tunes such as We're Selfish and Lazy and Greedy come across as tossed off throwaway tunes. Nothing quite coalesces here, and the musical compositions are at the most amateurish and basic. Although later Kart Mozart albums would charm with their childlike compositions and flightiness, here they just sound half-baked and dull. So yeah, not really much I can recommend about this particular LP. 2 stars.
Selfish and lazy and greedy.
Next up, we have Train Above the City from 1988, which was Felt's 9th LP. And yeah, what's this coming over the mountain? It's an entirely instrumental LP of lounge jazz. What now? And this album is notable for being the only Felt record not to feature or be written by Lawrence. He's not on this LP at all, so I'm not even sure this should be featured on this list. But it is still an official Felt record, and Lawrence's bandmates go all in with that hotel lobby jazz experience. And for what it is, it's fine, like it's okay. If you put it on in the background while doing something else, it's entirely pleasant. This LP feels like it's instantly ready to soundtrack 1,000 chain store coffee shops or hotel elevators. That said, this is definitely not what I come to Felt for, and if I want to listen to jazz, you better bet your ass I'm listening to Charles Mingus, John Coltrane or Miles Davis over this. 2.5 stars. Coming in next, we have Let the Snakes Crinkle Their Heads to Death, latterly renamed to the 17th Century, from 1986, which was Felt's 5th LP. And here we have another entirely instrumental record that clocks in at a scant 19 minutes, and unlike Train Above the City, features a pleasant set of Felt's typical jangle-style compositions, albeit obviously sans Lawrence's vocals. And much like the previous entry, it's fine, like pleasant background noise. I do incrementally prefer this over Train Above the City though. I mean, I'll take well-played jangle tunes over elevator jazz as a style any day of the week. And that's it, that's all that's fit to print about this record. It does have a very rich organ sound, which is nice, but without Lawrence's vocals anchoring things, Felt's X element is largely missing. I think it's okay as an instrumental curio for the fans of the band, but not much more. 3 stars. Next up we have the Pictorial Jackson Review from 1988, which was Felt's 8th LP. And here we have a pleasant yet ignorable jangle pop record that suffers from issues related to redundancy. You see, Felt are an indie jangle pop act in its purest form. And whilst the band can and have made some good albums in that genre, they have also made 10 of the bastards. And let's not beat around the bush here, indie jangle pop is a genre that can often sound quite samey. Indeed, one of the primary faults you could level at Felt overall is a general lack of musical variety. It's like, thoroughbred jangle or get the fuck out of the bar. And this album also takes a hit due to its place in the band's chronology. It's album number 8 and pretty much the exact point where Felt finally run that typical jangle sound into the ground. There just doesn't seem to be any new ideas coming through here. That said, it's not terrible. When taken in isolation, that typical jangle sound is still nice enough. The production here is also pretty good, with Lawrence's voice pushed up front in the mix, which is something I like. Tracks like Ivory Past and Jewels Are Setting Crowns have a nice upbeat sounding catchiness to them. While the album's best track, the closing Don't Die on My Doorstep, is pretty memorable, with Lawrence repeatedly pleading with you not to die over a nicely strummed indie jangler that really reminds me of Belle and Sebastian's Get Me Away From Here, I'm Dying. But yeah, much like your boss after CCTV catches you sticking your dick in the coffee filter, I keep coming back to the idea of redundancy. Like, why would I listen to this particular typical jangle record when Felt have much better typical jangle records in the discography? The answer is, I probably wouldn't, but still, for what it is, it's okay. 3 stars. Coming in next, we have Ignite the Seven Cannons from 1985, which was Felt's 4th LP. The previous year, 1984, had been a banner one for the band, and the group were obviously brimming with confidence on this release. The compositions were wider, more direct, and going hard for the catchy pop jugular. In fact, in terms of songwriting and potential, a few of Felt's best written tunes are on here. The opening My Darkest Light Will Shine has an instantly epic and anthemic lilt to it. It could have and should have been great. Likewise, The Day the Rain Came Down had so much potential with its whiplash pace and sugary main guitar riff. Unfortunately, the band had Robin Guthrie of the Cocktail Twins in the producer's chair, and he takes a merciless dump on the record, drowning everything with echo and reverb and generally making the album sound like an unappealing murky mess. As Lawrence confessed once upon a time in an interview, I was never happy with the mix that was done by Robin Guthrie of the Cocktail Twins. He kind of ruined some of my best songs, which I'm sure he'd agree with now that he's a lot more experienced. Still though, despite its awful production woes, the album's centrepiece, Primitive Painters, which is also Felt's biggest hit, is still great with its flashy female vocals and dolopherous organs. But yeah, this LP frustrates with an overriding feeling of wasted potential. It could have been great, but as it is, it's merely okay. A disappointing 3 stars. Next up we have Crumbling the Antiseptic Beauty from 1981, which was Felt's debut LP. And as well as setting up the jangle stall quite nicely, this record also puts one foot into post-punk. The album thrums with a dour darkness that is somewhat unusual for the band. Whilst the majority of Felt records share more in common with the DNA of XTC and the Smiths, this debut LP feels closer to bands like The Cure or Echo and the Bunnymen. But it's actually pretty good and often impresses with its gorgeous jangly guitar breaks, instrumental sections and swirling gothic atmosphere. The bookending instrumentals of Evergreen Dazed and Templeroy are great and introduce the band's knack for jangly hooks with precision. Fortune has an easy post-punk glide to it, with its lead guitar riffage standing out as a thing of crystalline beauty, while the twisting instrumental sections on Cathedral and I Worship the Sun are absolutely fantastic and make the tracks pop. As for complaints, the drum lines on the record are noticeably repetitive. It sounds like the drummer only had a set of toms to play with. Where the hell is the snare and the bass drum and the cymbals? Also, Lawrence's vocals are pushed way down in the mix and he sounds murky and indistinct, making it difficult to connect with his lyrics. But yeah, this is still a good opening salvo from Felt that shows some immediate potential. 3.5 stars. Coming in next, we have Poem of the River from 1987, which was Felt's 7th LP. Although the term LP might be a bit of a stretch, as Poem of the River only runs 26 minutes, thus blurring the line between LP and EP. Anyway, this record represents the point where Felt finally turned in a more direct style, finally putting Lawrence's vocals right up front and sounding like a fully confident pop band that was hungry for chart success. And there's a lot of really good stuff to savour on this short but consistent release. Open a declaration makes you crack a smile as Lawrence sneers, "I will be the first person in history to die of boredom," before threatening those that get in his way with a good old stabbing to the face. The finger-picked emotive folk of She Lives by the Castle is stunningly beautiful, while tracks like Stained Glass Windows in the Sky and Riding on the Equator are lovely little jangly nuggets of catchy bittersweet joy and lilting melancholia. Holding this back, however, is its extremely short length that makes the record feel like an inconsequential addition to the band's discography, and also the way that Martin Duffy's organ is sometimes placed way too high in the mix, making it sound overly aggressive and shrill. Sadly, the closer Dark Red Birds is ruined by this fault. But overall, Poem of the River is a solid outing with some great sparkly high spots. 3.5 stars. Into the top 10 we careen with Me and a Monkey on the Moon from 1989, which was Felt's 10th and final LP. And this is Felt's most typically pop-orientated record, with Lawrence at his most catchy and the compositions having a clean, no-nonsense country rock sheen to them. And that's the big difference on this particular LP. Although there's plenty of jangle to be found, this album is more notable for its flashes of country and blues guitar. It definitely sounds a bit different in texture from what has gone before, and as such it kind of acts as a good transitional record between Felt and Lawrence's next project, Denim. Although there are a few weaker numbers here and there, for example the overcluttered and muddy jangle pop of Mobile Shack, or Get Out of My Mirror with its annoying keyboard tones, this is still a largely satisfying record that ends Felt's tenure with a nice poppy flourish. I Can't Make Love With You Anymore kicks the record off with a slicker sound than ever before, its super catchy chorus and country slide guitars hosting an instant appeal. Free is beautiful with its drooping melancholic sound and twinkling pianos that positively leap out of the track. Although, on closer inspection, the lyrics are actually about a vengeful kiss-off to a former bandmate. New Day Dawning has a nice building jangle and a great explosion into a lead guitar-strewn climax. Will Never Let You Go is a fantastic indie pop tune with an instantly memorable chorus and a romantically crushed howl of a lyric. So yeah, Me and a Monkey on the Moon is a solid final stanza for Felt, but there's also a feeling of slight tiredness just under the surface here too. It's kind of hard to explain or put your finger on precisely, but it's definitely there, lurking in the album's undertow. But this is still a very enjoyable record, 3.5 stars.
I was born in the back of a mobile shack and my father's a teen son and I call you James. Call me James. Oh, James.
Next up we have Pop Up, Kaching and the Possibilities of Modern Shopping from 2023, which is Lawrence's first LP under the moniker of Mozart Estate and his 17th album overall and his most recent to date. And despite the name change, this is business as usual in the novelty pop go Kart Mozart mode. Lawrence's comedic working class lyrics take centre stage, backed up by basic and often amateurish electropop compositions. But somehow against all odds the style works and the tunes come off as charming and whimsical instead of musically inept. I don't think there are many artists that could pull off this kind of thing so successfully, but it somehow seems to go hand in hand with the cheesy nerdiness that Lawrence brings to the table.
That said, the record is not quite perfect. This type of novelty pop always has to walk a tightrope between being great and being rubbish, and certain tracks such as Pretty Boy, and Now the Darkest Times Are Here, Doing the Brick Wall Crawl, and Before the Barcode do slip off that rope, landing on the wrong side of Doll. But there is still a huge swathe of very enjoyable material here to dig into. Tracks like Poundland, Pink and the Purple, and Four White Men in a Black Car have a repetitive yet insanely catchy bop to them, their hooks snaking inside your brain and bothering your sleep. Flanker for Mr. Flowers has a delightful wispy Englishness to it that recalls the Divine Comedy. I Wanna Murder You amuses greatly with its hilariously grisly lyrics like, "There's some geezers I want dead. Plant a spanner in their goddamn heads until they are dead. Then stamp on their heads. They're better off dead." While Relative Poverty is straight up one of Lawrence's best tunes ever, with its lovely Kingsian pop, nuclear grade catchiness and a frisson of working class desperation. So yeah, although Lawrence has better novelty pop records in his discography, there is so much fun stuff on this LP that it's hard not to have a good time while listening to it. 4 stars. Next up we have Forever Breathes the Lonely Word from 1986, which was Felt's 6th LP. And this might be a bit of a controversial ranking because as far as I can ascertain, Forever Breathes the Lonely Word is generally considered to be Felt's masterpiece. It's their The Queen is Dead or OK Computer or whatever, at least in the eyes of the critics. As for me, I disagree. I think this album is a good jangle record. It's immediately pleasant and consistent and doesn't have any weak tracks within its 31-minute runtime. But it's also not that much different from any other jangly Felt record. In fact, of its 8 songs, only 4 of them stand out as a cut above. Opener Reign of Crystal Spires is a wonderful jangle tune that has cavorting organs, framing a dour, rain-sopped plunge into lyrical defeat, with Lawrence giving up on all hope by declaring, "The sun will never shine." Down But Not Out Yet is another perfect slice of jangly pop that feels on par with R.E.M's Life Rich Pageant, which was also released in 1986, as was The Queen is Dead by the Smiths and Skylarking by XTC. Talk about jangle pop central. All the People I Like Are Those That Are Dead is a minor masterwork, with its pitch-perfect composition and strident atheist lyrics immediately captivating the attention. It also sounds suspiciously like certain Belle and Sebastian songs, so you can definitely feel Felt's footprint upon modern music during the track. While A Wave Crashed on the Rocks is a rare full-on ballad, its gentle but stormy vibe bringing an appealing misery with it, even if the lyrics are somewhat inscrutable. But the other tracks such as September Lady, Grey Streets and Gather Up Your Wings and Fly rate as robust and pleasant yet somewhat interchangeable tunes that steadfastly stick to the typical jangle template. But yeah, despite my reservations as to why this particular Felt LP gets singled out for the lion's share of praise, I also recognise that it is a good album of its genre. As I said, there are no bad songs here. Even at its weakest and most typical, Forever Breathes the Lonely Word is still very pleasant and very easy to listen to. 4 stars. Next up we have Tearing Up the Album Chart from 2005, which was the second LP under the banner of Kart Mozart and Lawrence's 14th overall. And this is one of his slickest sounding records, with a more conventional pop sheen that doesn't sound too far away from the Britpop orientated material he made with Denim. Indeed, a good portion of the songs on this were initially written for the ill-fated and scrapped third Denim LP. And this album is incredibly consistent and charming, filled with great pop hooks and songs that are instantly catchy and likeable. So much so that to find fault here we need to head into nitpick mode, and those nitpicks would be that the 2 closing tracks, England and Wales and City Centre, are obviously the weakest cuts on the record and send the LP off on a slightly throwaway note. But everything else on this is very entertaining and often very funny. Glorious Chorus and Summer Is Here open the record with some delightfully twee electronic pop that throws giant, upbeat, hooky choruses over laughably rudimentary beats. Listening to Marmalade brings in some distorted stuttergun guitar to augment its insane catchiness, as Lawrence sighs, "You turn your PC on, and the future is displayed. There's little kids with no knickers on and, oh, they're all getting laid. TDU is a lot of subversive fun, with its absurdity making you want to sing along with a song that's ostensibly about getting a massive hit from meth. Fuzzy Duck, meanwhile, amuses with its dramatic and hazy composition, hilariously using a quacking duck sound as its primary source of percussion. Transgressions taps into your funny bone with its trashy Europop, highlighted by lyrics like, "We're nicking from the racks in HMV. We're gonna beat you up cause we think we're hard. We're screwing lots of girls and we come in a flash." While Donna and the Dope Fiends has the chorus of, "Hey Donna, come on, hey Donna, come on, I want to score," endlessly rattling around your brain. So yeah, this album is a short, sharp, 33-minute blast of slick pop fun, a rock solid 4 stars.
Caterpillar, conus, cosmic eye, a collection, forest trees, plastic penny, Agnes Strange, wooden horse, 1, 2, 3.
Coming in next, we have Mozart's Mini-Mart from 2018, which was the 4th and final Kart Mozart LP and Lawrence's 16th overall. And here we have more extremely charming novelty pop with the usual portion of excellent lyricism, chucklesome humour, and this time a bit more emphasis on trashy electronic Europop, which to be fair has no right to be as good as it is, but Lawrence just takes this shit and makes it totally his own. And there's tons to enjoy on this record. When You're Depressed is a slice of trash pop perfection, with its starkly miserable lyrics married to an instantly anthemic and catchy sing-along banger. The original version of Relative Poverty can also be found here too. Although it's not quite as good as the latter recording, it's still an easy win because it's just such a damn good pop tune. Zelda in the Spotlight has a great melody that veers the track very close to Belle and Sebastian and the Divine Comedy territory, which is never a bad place to be. A black hood on his head presents a sparkly, upbeat pop tune, and then interestingly subverts it with a truly horrific lyric. They stood him on an empty crate. He pissed himself drip dry. They cut his fucking head off and filmed it for good measure. We saw it on the TV just before the weather. On the more flippant side, there's no way that the song Knickers on the Line by 3 Chord Fraud should be so damn catchy and entertaining, but ends up permanently lodged in your head. While Farewell to Tarzan Harvey has a none more kink-sounding flourish to its lovely piano-based pop. So yeah, this record is a hell of a lot of fun, with very little in the way of downtime, just wonderful and very silly stuff. 4.5 stars. So we're going to be kicking off the top 5 with Back in Denim from 1992, which was the first LP under the Denim umbrella and Lawrence's 11th overall. And here we find him shaking off the jangle pop genre and joining the contemporary trend of Britpop, with this album rubbing shoulders with the early Britpop likes of Blur's Modern Life is Rubbish and Suede's debut LP. In fact, Back in Denim sounds so much within the wheelhouse of Britpop that you'd swear it must have been released a few years later, as it totally predicts what most British guitar music would sound like from 1995 to 1997. And much kudos to Lawrence because he's crafted a very strong textbook Britpop record here, replete with radio-friendly choruses, bright guitar-based soundscapes, and a very English sensibility tying everything together. Highlights from a catchy and consistent release includes the opener, Back in Denim, which kicks off the LP in fun style, its booming drums and grinding guitars putting it a million miles away from felt. Middle of the Road is one of Lawrence's most famous tunes, with its catchy Britpop and endless parade of music acts that he hates catching the attention, as he basically vocalizes the mantra of this channel. I'm force-fed your so-called heroes. Don't be told who to like. It's your choice. It's your right to choose who you listen to. The Osmonds is great as it takes an interesting lyrical ride through Lawrence's nostalgic memories of the 1970s, over a bittersweet teenage fan club style ballad. Glitter on Your Face is a beautiful folky tune with some romantically crushed lyrics threading through it, while tracks like American Rock and Here Is My Song for Europe have shimmering Britpop hooks and Lawrence's elevated lyrics making them easily worthwhile additions. So yeah, this first Denim outing puts aside any lingering subtlety left over from Felt and just goes straight for the pop rock jugular. It's an impressive start for Lawrence's post-Felt work, 4.5 stars. Next up we have The Splendour of Fear from 1984, which was Felt's second LP, and this is a slice of jangle perfection. Here Felt take what they were doing on their debut, crumbling the antiseptic beauty, and dial up the quality significantly. But to be honest, despite its amazing level of quality, there's not actually much I can say about this particular LP. It has 6 songs and a runtime of 30 minutes, but only 2 of those songs actually have vocals, leaving the lion's share of the record as an instrumental outing. Hell, even Lawrence's vocals are so far down in the mix that those other 2 songs might as well be instrumentals too. But what this album gets spectacularly right are the jangly guitars. The playing and the melodies on this LP are absolutely crackerjack. There's a sparsity in the other instrumentation, so nothing really gets in the way of those beautiful spangly hooks and arpeggiated riffs. Nowhere is this more apparent than on the album's centerpiece, The Optimist and the Poet, which is rad with its building and ebbing post-punk jangle flows, easily carrying the tune to a well-deserved 8-minute runtime. So yeah, because I've run out of every adjective I could ever possibly use for jangle music over the course of this video, I'll leave it there and just say that if you like nice melodic jangly guitars, this LP will absolutely satiate you on that front. For what it is, a mostly instrumental indie jangle record, this is unequivocally top drawer stuff. 4.5 stars. Next up we have On the Hot Dog Streets from 2012, which was Kart Mozart's third LP and Lawrence's 15th overall. And this for me is his novelty pop masterpiece. This record is unbelievably funny and stuffed to the brim with super cheesy yet super memorable tunes that hook themselves into your cerebral cortex and threaten never to leave. And at 17 tracks and 52 minutes it's kind of hard to know where to start with this one. So at the beginning will do, as Lawrence takes over, kicks the record off with a blast of faux egotism as Lawrence bigs himself up in the most hilariously cheesy way possible. West Brom Blues has a giant sing-along chorus that instantly lingers in a melodic sweet spot that comes back to haunt you at inopportune moments. Come On You Lot is peak comedy Lawrence with its sudden shouts of drugs, drugs, cash, cash, and chortlesome lyrics like, come on you lot, the girls are thick as shit. All they want are supersized silicone tits. Mickey Makes the Most is another insanely catchy tune with a raft of unforgettable lyrics to dig into, such as, they say Michael lost his head. He took a funny pill and ended up in bed. As the Liverpool skies got light, he was nearly brown bread. I Talk With Robot Voice meanwhile is stark raving hilarious and actually made me physically laugh out loud on the train in front of everyone, as Lawrence handily informed me, I don't want any girl to hurt me anymore. I'm sick and tired of their abuse. Yet I'll admit, I'm still susceptible to vagina. Oh! But there's still plenty more to enjoy. Synth Wizard is a really cool and atmospheric slice of rock-tinged synth pop. Ollie Ollie Get Your Collie is an exercise in straight fire as dumb as it gets catchiness. While Blowing in a Secular Breeze is awesome, as over a gorgeous musical composition, Lawrence laments the decline and fall of the British Empire. It's a fantastic track that would make even Ray Davies proud. So yeah, this album is great and I love it, but it is restrained from a 5-star rating by the odd throwaway tune, such as Spunky Axe, which sees some of the lyrical space taken up by Lawrence, woofing and meowing, which is also in itself quite funny, but you gotta draw the fucking line somewhere. But still, this LP is an absolute riot in my opinion, 4.5 stars. Coming in next and narrowly missing the top spot, we have Denim on Ice from 1996, which was Denim's second and final LP and Lawrence's 12th overall. And this album is notable for being Lawrence's longest release, at 18 tracks and 57 minutes. And whilst I'm all about brevity in general, here the length actually works in the record's favour, adding some extra depth and a more epic sensibility than usual. Although the general sound of 90s Britpop is always there, tying everything together with its bright guitar textures, there's a really fun sense of variety on this LP. You never quite know what's going to spring out from the track list at you next. And because of its length and variety, this is a record that you just have to kind of let go and tumble through, pinging off the endless stream of charmingly tweaked tunes and sleep-depriving choruses. It kind of reminds me of a super bright Britpop version of Kiss Me Kiss Me Kiss Me by The Cure. And just like that record, this doesn't really contain any of the artist's truly best material, but everything still hits a solidly entertaining level of quality, with the length and the variety adding that special X element that elevates the whole over the sum of its parts. Cherry picks from an absolutely rammed tracklist includes the single It Fell Off the Back of a Lorry, which is a super catchy slice of vacuous daft pop that seems to be paving the way forward for Kart Mozart. The Supermodels is a fun slice of glammy pop rock that reminds me a lot of 1970s Kinks. Mrs. Mills is a gorgeous musical ballad with a wonderful Beatlesy melody powering its twee charm. Synthesizers in the Rain has an epic synth-pop flow and a nighttime urbane crackle that recalls orchestral maneuvers in the dark. Job Center meanwhile has an instantly nostalgic Britpop sound and a guitar figure that sounds suspiciously like Shed 7's Going for Gold. Grandad's False Teeth is so dumb that you can't help but crack a smile, as Lawrence starts singing about going down on people while, well, yeah, wearing Grandad's false teeth, even involving a children's chorus section in the proceedings, which is hilariously perverse. While Myriad of Hoops is lovely with its regret-soaked romantic melancholia and gentle acoustic twinkle. So yeah, I'm just scratching the surface there. Each of these 18 tracks has its own little charm point to dig into. And as I already said, the level of consistency and sense of variety really elevates the entire package over any of the individual pieces. Denim on Ice is a pretty damn wonderful pop record. 5 stars.
But it fell off the back of a lorry. Officer, so very sorry. But it fell off the back of a lorry.
So here we are at the top of the mountain, and the Lawrence Gold Medal is going to go to The Strange Idols Pattern and Other Short Stories from 1984, which was Felt's third LP, and here Felt achieved their apex in my opinion. The band take a turn out of the darker hued post-punk soundscapes of their first 2 records and into a more upbeat sounding jangle pop direction. But they still haven't entirely lost that sense of darkness, which somehow still clings to the sunnier sounding jangle compositions like Winter's Chill on a Fresh Spring Morn. And it's the perfect mix. The superb instrumental moments that made The Splendor of Fear so great are still nicely present, with the medieval sounding guitar work of The Sempiternal Darkness and the gorgeous flamenco trills of Crucifix Heaven immediately impressing. But unlike the band's first 2 albums, Lawrence really finds his feet here as a singer, his voice pushed up front and commanding more attention. And this leads to some of the catchiest and most pristine perfect jangle tunes that Felt ever put to tape, via the Curesque opener, Roman Litter, and the insidiously earworm brilliance of Spanish House. But there isn't a weak offering on the entire LP. Tracks like Dismantle King is Off the Throne and Crystal Ball are as good as any peak track from any other Felt record. Sunlight Bathed the Golden Glow has some gorgeous upbeat guitars that call forward to The Cure's Friday I'm in Love. Vasco da Gama is a nicely stormy track that features these statico guitar chords in the chorus that sound like they might have given Interpol a few ideas. While closer, Whirlpool Vision of Shame ends the record with a moody return to post-punk, with Lawrence Darrelly concluding, "If you won't die of shame, then I'll die instead." Damn, I guess the guy must have somehow heard Kart Mozart's Instant Wigwam and Igloo mixture. So yeah, The Strange Idols Pattern and Other Short Stories is an absolutely fantastic jangle record that has instant classic stamped all over it, and for me it is both Felt's and Lawrence's best LP, 5 stars. So now I've come to the end of my deep dive, the question remains, did I gain more appreciation for the artist? And the answer is obviously hells yeah. I went from basically not even knowing of Lawrence's existence to handing him 9 4-star or above album ratings. And this is just the beginning of our relationship. With more listens, I think these albums have nowhere to go but up. And that's my list. But of course that won't be your list, so why not sound off in the comments and tell me how you'd rank these records? Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and all that other kind of YouTube jazz. Feel free to check out the Lawrence Spotify playlist I personally curated, link in the description below. Make sure to take care of yourself, but most importantly, just keep on ranking.
Tell everybody I'm alright. Tell everybody I'm alright. butcher and tell me what is wrong. Oh.